Hey guys, it is your boy GodOfKa here, and welcome to another reaction video. I'm just as surprised as you are that we are here. What are we reacting to? Well, we are reacting to a Stephen Saunders video. But you might be asking yourself, GodOfKa, why are you gonna give him views? I'm not. If you actually look at the monitor or your screen, whatever it might be, you see I have a media player opened to one of his videos. I managed to snag it the only way a baller on a budget is able to. And I won't say what. Anyway, so this video is why you cannot break old school D&D, and is Luke Gygax selling out to WotC? Obviously, I'm assuming what the latter portion is, because as you can see, the media player couldn't fit the full title. Thank you, Saunders, for being such a dickbag about that. Your titles are too fucking long. Shorten it, for fuck's sake. Anyway, sorry about that bit of vitriol. You might hear that from me as we go on about this. So, I made a poll on X, wondering if people wanted me to do this. Obviously, 2 people said yes, and that was it for the votes. 100% of them wanted this, so for the 2 people who voted for this is for you. So, with that said, let's actually get into this, shall we?
Over the years, I've heard people tell me that if there is some type of change that you feel you need to make to a game, likely you should just go look for another game that does the thing that you are looking to do.
Immediately, I want to push on this a bit, right? Obviously, homebrew exists for a reason. If there is something that you want to add into, say, Dungeons and Dragons, you want to add it? Sure, you can add it. It is your game. You can do whatever you want. Doesn't mean you have to buy a new book that's probably like expensive as is, that you're gonna only play for like what? A few sessions before you go back to your original game. Homebrew exists for people who are, again, balling on a budget. So, no, Saunders, you don't have to buy a new game for whatever you want to do that the current system doesn't have. Hell, it's why homebrew is so popular as a thing. Just saying.
Well, when it comes to old school Dungeons and Dragons, I would say those people are wrong. And there's a lot of nuance to this whole topic. Not just that.
Okay, so again, I have to cut in. I'm what you would call part of the new school and or more casual TTRPG players. Not even really a player. In my area, Dungeons, Dragons, and TTRPGs are not really popular. So I did most of my stuff online, and me being the instigator that I am on trying to get into something, if it's something like a multiplayer thing like Dungeons and Dragons, I would be the person to initiate it, and therefore I would be the game master, just right out the gate. And it was something. And I too would do additions that weren't official to a current game. That's not just a old school thing. New school people also do it. So, if you're telling new school Dungeons and Dragons players that, oh, you don't have to modify what you are currently playing. Surely there is a TTRPG out there that you'll have to spend like what, $60 or so to buy that fits your niche. And you can leave like Dungeons and Dragons on the shelf gathering dust, even though you work so hard to make the homebrew for your game. Well, you can go fuck yourself. You have a game here, play it. I don't care. That's you, basically, Saunders. That's you, telling game masters that work so hard and so passionately to modify a current system that's popular, by the way, to just say, look, there is a game doing it, go and play that. You're really evil when it comes to that. When people expose what you're actually saying to people.
Raw rules as written. Something pushed when Advanced Dungeons and Dragons First Edition came out with a thing called tournaments. They made the game rules as written to keep things consistent for those who took part in tournament play.
And that was valid for back then because you had a venue that you had a limited time to host in, and you wanted to be able to get games finished. So obviously, rules as written it made sense. Hell, TCG tournaments do the same thing. You want to keep things consistent throughout the time that you have. So obviously you have to follow the rules as you say, as written. Now I say TCGs because I have more experience in TCGs than in TTRPGs, but there's one thing that TTRPGs and TCGs have. They have rules that you follow. Now, obviously, in a TTRPG, you're allowed to be more fast and loose. That's fair. I understand that. Trading card games can follow the same thing, right? But for the most part, rules are always followed, and for a tournament venue scene where you have limited time to play your game, so it's obvious that tournament rules have to be applied. And if people want to play like that in their home games, what are you gonna do about it? Judge them online? Bully them online? Make it so that they don't want to play anymore? Let's keep on going.
Rules as written was not a focus or approach in original or BECME or even the home version of AD&D First Edition or Second Edition AD&D.
Sure, may not have been. Commander wasn't originally an official format. It was something made. Sure, it was made by a total person outside side of the Magic the Gathering space, but it was still made, and when people found it, they loved it. Probably similar to tournament rules as written style things that you're judging. Are you really gonna judge rules as written? I mean, you are, so I don't have to ask.
That was a new thing that was here for a little while, and Tournament and Raw was dropped by the time 2E came out on the market. You know, I'll hear people say if you make too many changes, it stops being Dungeons and Dragons. And I would agree there's a bit of a structure there you want to maintain. But how much people say you got to maintain to keep it as is, I don't always agree. Actually, I don't agree at all. I think that Dungeons and Dragons is less of an overall game when you think about it, and more of a generic toolkit made for changes and adaptability, and made that way so a company could keep making a variety of products for that system. You know what Gary Gygax said? He said the idea was for you, the home person, the guy who runs the game, to master the game through rules as written, and then he expects that you will make changes, that we all will, and I mean tweak, not just optional stuff, but actually tweak the core rules to get what we want. We may find that we like combat a certain way, and through a few minor changes, we can get combat to work in a certain way for our table. He was completely okay with this. All he wanted you to do was first master the game so you could understand the changes that you're making, and clearly he thought you were very capable, just like him and his design team were capable of making the same changes.
Now I'm gonna interrupt here to say Saunders is actually valid. He is valid in this statement. However, I will argue this again. What if people like rules as written? What if the game master and players agree that we don't have to modify things at this point? We don't have to. We like it the way it is. Sure, we know how it works and all that. Sure, we can like introduce a new monster that we make, so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, if it plays a way we like, as is, in quote, tournament rules as written style, why bother changing it? That's kind of the point that I'm trying to make. Why bother changing something that doesn't have to be fixed? Why bother modifying something that you like?
We go from 1E to 2E, dropping the battle metric system, going purely Thaco. Well, if they can do it, guess what? The guy at home who masters the game is just as capable of making such changes without breaking what it is we call D&D. And if we can make changes from one edition to another and keep a feel, maintain a thing with major changes, not optional rules, but actually core tweaking of the system, but maintain the feel of old school D&D, well, obviously it's possible. That means you can do the same thing at home. You can make a lot of changes and still maintain the feel and that sort of structure of play. You know what was great about old school D&D? Outside of that raw and tournament gimmick, it was made for adapting things to it, to making it sing like you want it to sing. You didn't have to go buy a new game. You could make this work whatever way you wanted to make it work. That wasn't a broken element of the game. That was something that was the game itself. It was made to be bent, cracked, re-put together, right? It was made for that type of experimentation. It wasn't telling you that you need to go find another game that does something else. It's saying, even if it doesn't initially do what you want, you can make this do what you want.
And yeah, I guess he's right. I won't deny it there. But I'm gonna hammer it in. If your players like it, the way it plays, why change it? That's all I gotta ask. Sure, you can add a new monster that you're making, and if it plays out, well, it plays out, sure, we can keep the monster in our game. But when it comes to modifying rules, if the players are not going to be able to understand it unless it is a new edition, then sure, you are going to learn the new rules there. But at the end of the day, if they want to play raw, then what is my right to deny it?
And it's made so you can make it do what you want. Now I'm talking about old school. I'm not talking about 3rd edition, 4th edition, or 5e from Wizards of the Coast. They went pure raw rules as written. And they're very exact on their game. You know, I like the old school where there wasn't something exactly written for every detail, but you could just assume things. The character stabs a monster. Another player says, well, before they take the blade out, I want to kick the blade in. Well, in a rules as written game, you stab in, you take out. There's no option for that. The initial stabbing player with the character would have to announce something like that in the process before you could get to that step. Though, you see elements of this in Castles and Crusades, and you see it in Old School. The DM, without a lot of overall controlled structure over them, like a rules as written chain around them, could do what they want and make such free decisions. But if you're being too exact, you can't do that. There's almost no game outside of D&D that is made in this generic way on purpose. Again, TSR made it. They made a game that they could apply new ideas to, bend the game to new concepts, add new rules, adjust, everything. And you can adapt so much. Go out and run Gangbusters, another game made by TSR. What do you learn? You learn to manage reaction of the world. These are skills not always that well taught in D&D, but you can learn anything outside of D&D and then adapt it to old school Dungeons and Dragons. You can learn how to pace and react with the Gangbusters experience. You could go to Top Secret, look at teamwork and strategy. You know, really push concepts from that game onto your players. The type of missions that would cause that type of gameplay. You can go to a game like Bushido, look at how the social interaction works, and then apply that type of social setting, those social rules to an old school Dungeons and Dragons game. Anything you encounter from any other game, you could pretty much adapt to D&D. But that wasn't true the other way around. D&D could take on anything. You like World of Darkness? You could do that with Dungeons and Dragons. You could do a lot of it. You could do anything with old school D&D because it was made for you. You know, Gary Gygax seemed to like the idea of a universal system. It's something he worked on when he left TSR. He liked the idea of adaptability, of doing what you want, making the game yours. It was less important to him that it was, oh, this is what D&D is. It's whatever D&D is whatever it is to you and your group and your table. And it's made to be a toolkit so you can achieve what you want. Not so you bend to the game like some slave in Raw. They liked marketed settings. They liked all that. But did Gary ever think you should bow to the lore of a setting?
What if people like lore? What if people like what the official people wrote? You really hate those kinds of people, don't you? You hate people who read books for fun? Man, what a jackass, am I right?
No, it was all about you and what you want, empowering to you and your table. It was about your creativity, not you bowing to somebody else's creativity. And I like that concept and that freedom and that focus on valuing what it is you bring, not what you learn and bend your knee to. That's why I don't care about changes Watsy does. That's why I don't care what they do at Greyhawk or what they're going to do at Dragonlance. Doesn't matter to me. The lore of a world setting means nothing. I care about the gaming experience. I'm not religious about D&D or the hobby and the way many people are. So with Luke Gygax now going to work pretty much full-time for Wizards of the Coast, I'm going to say this. When it comes to him taking on that type of work, a lot of people are calling him a sellout. I disagree. Yeah.
You have your right to say that he isn't. And full on, I'm not going to hate you for that. Okay, Saunders? Not going to hate you for having your own right to say, you know, he's not selling out. I believe he isn't. You don't have the right to say that everyone else is wrong unless you have exact evidence that he's not selling out from his own mouth, from Luke's mouth. Apparently you don't. You're just assuming. So, people who think Luke is selling out have their right to say that. You have your right to say that he isn't. But you can't deny the possibility that Luke is selling out.
Now, I don't care what Watsy said about Gary for years. I thought it was in poor taste. To be honest, I thought it was pathetic, but it was something I ignored. But it wasn't my father. I don't own the history. Dungeons and Dragons doesn't belong to me. I'm not part of a cult.
You say you're not part of a cult, and yet you're still a fan. Fandom is honestly like a cult. And if you're part of a fandom or multiple fandoms, you're part of those cults, as it were. So, if you're making videos as a content creator, which you are, and you're making money off of it, why do you say you're not part of the cult that is Dungeons and Dragons as a banner, and you're under the umbrella of second edition, which you do not consider to be old school, which you have a valid opinion there. Most people disagree with you. That's how I see that, honestly. Where was I going with this? Oh, yeah. You saying that you're not part of the Dungeons and Dragons cult? I have to disagree with you. You are part of it. I am part of it. Everyone who has interacted in this hobby with this hobby, period, if it's like making videos about it, reading up lore about it, hell, playing with homebrew for the latest edition of Dungeons and Dragons. If you've played it, welcome to the cult, my friend. You can draw your blood out on the altar over there.
So when Watsy, Wizards of the Coast, decided to apologize to Luke Gygax, I said, well, it's his family that they went after. It's his father they talked about. It's on him how he reacts to that. And they made a public apology. And if he deems that good enough, that's good enough. And then after he accepts an apology, which I felt like he should demand something like that before he ever just works for them in this way, what he does working for them, the fact that they run Dungeons and Dragons, I thought, well, there's Luke Gygax. Yeah, of the Gygax family, working on Dungeons and Dragons. That's not a disgrace. That's not a betrayal of his family. That's not a sellout at all. He's as capable as anybody else working on the games. He spent years playing them. We're only talking about games here. That's all it is. His father...
It's not just games, Saunders. It's a culture. It's a culture that we are all arguing about. I mean, not me specifically. I've had a falling out with TTRPGs a bit back. Not able to play them as often as I wanted to, so I'm only here still due to how I am still into Yu-Gi-Oh! I was in it for a bit, and I can't help but following the news at this point. And similar to how I feel about Yu-Gi-Oh!, I feel the same way about anything Dungeons and Dragons or TTRPG related. If it's news, I'm gonna listen to it, and I am gonna have my own goddamn opinions about it. And you cannot fucking stop me, boy. You cannot stop me from having my own opinions about a game that I do not play. And people are gonna disagree with me. You can disagree with me, and I'm gonna respect that. I'm not gonna say you can eat rocks. I am not gonna say that they can eat rocks. We all have our own opinions about this hobby. Let's just have fun and not try to be mean to people. Right.
Taught him a lot. He understands a lot. Enough that he could go do something. And if he can achieve it, let him achieve it. We're only talking about games. We're not talking about science or medicine. It's how much of a professional do you need to be? I've spent years running thousands of gaming sessions for old school D&D for thousands of players. I'm as capable as any staff member that worked for TSR at making the game, designing the game, doing all that.
Oh boy. Oh boy. You say you have thousands of experiences playing whatever TTRPG you play, right? Obviously, you are only referring to Dungeons and Dragons 2nd edition. Okay, that's fair. Only one little problem there, Saunders, buddy boy. Only one little eensy teensy weensy little motherfucking problem, motherfucker. And that is your game. The Neo TTRPG system, Skull Horn Edition. Yeah. I tried reading it. Won't lie. I lost my sanity a bit trying to comprehend what the fuck you have written down in there back like a year ago. Over a year ago, actually. I'm gonna correct myself there. Over a year ago, I tried reading it. Despite how I feel about you personally, despite despite all of that, tried to give you a shot. Oh my god, I think I almost went into a lunatic rant. I think I actually did. That's how bad you drove me. You put me into a kind of psychosis that I was able to drag myself out of. And you know what I did with that passion? The passion that most people feel about disagreements about what everybody says. I try to make something of it. Won't lie, I lost the passion for it a bit. God knows if I actually go back into doing my Project D100 fantasy thing. I don't even know. Don't even know when I might actually get back into it. Currently, I'm working on my proxy war thing. I'm gonna have a new cards frame on the screen now where I'm actually doing something a little bit different. Again, I'm revamping the original Beyblade TCG, making a spiritual successor to it, if you will, and that's where my current passion is going. And if my passion goes back to the project D100 Fantasy, then you know what? That would be awesome for the audience members who actually subscribed for those kinds of videos. But for now, Proxy Wars it is, and yeah, where was I going with this? Oh yeah, you suck at game design, Saunders. Your experience obviously isn't enough for you to make a more comprehensive document the first go around. That you were selling out to the time. Oh my god. You were insane to try to sell that to people. You can look up the various reviews where people actually said, what the fuck is this piece of garbage? Am I right? What a field day that was, Saunders Boyle. What a field day that was. And anyways, we got about like 5 more minutes. Let's try to wrap this up.
Not a single staff member of TSR that's still alive today is any more capable of working on D&D than I am. So if I can achieve it, if I can be on their level, and trust me, I am, I'm sure we can count Lou Gygax as being good enough. What has he done? What have they done? They made games. Doesn't matter. Right? So Luke, it's up to him how he takes all this in. And there's nothing about selling out. Look, I admit, would I think it's in poor taste for him to not get a public apology and go forward? Yeah, I think that was required. And I think Watsy understood that was the right move. So what if Luke doesn't make them get on their knees even further in the process? But in a way they are. They apologized to him, and now they're praising Gary as they should have done for a long time. If that's good enough for the family and good enough for Luke Gygax, it's good enough for me. It's not my daddy. It's not my family. And I don't own Dungeons and Dragons, nor am I part of a cult that thinks they own it, thinks they have some ownership over that entire thing. They don't. So Luke Gygax is not a sellout.
Sure, we don't own the game. We don't own the IP that is Dungeons and Dragons as a fandom. But we have passion for it. And obviously Watsy really doesn't. Say what you want about Critical Role and all of the people who do actual play streams of, well, Dungeons and Dragons and or TTRPG variants of Dungeons and Dragons that they do for their specific shows. At least they're passionate about it. And If they want to own that version of Dungeons and Dragons that they are playing, then fuck it, more power to them. More fucking power to them, man. You cannot fucking deny that, Saunders. You cannot deny that everybody's game of Dungeons and Dragons they own. And if they disagree with the direction that the current IP holders are doing, then that is their right to disagree. If they think Luke Gygax is a sellout, that's on them to believe it, and I'm not gonna say that they are wrong because we don't know what is going on behind closed doors. We don't know. We can assume, yeah, but that's on us, and at this point, if there's no official word, then anything could be true at this point. Anything can be true, and you cannot deny these nuts. You can't deny them. You can't deny that what they're saying could be true and what you're saying could be wrong. We all could be wrong. We all could be right. We don't know unless we have the exact details. And Saunders, buddy, we don't. We have our opinions unless we are given explicit evidence that Luke is selling out or Luke isn't selling out. And honestly, Saunders, you don't provide any evidence, and that's what's wrong with your, well, videos. Your videos are all rants and no show of evidence. Sure, my reaction right now could be considered a rant. I won't deny that at all. I won't deny that I asked you, the audience, if you wanted this, and here you freaking go. You are having my takes, and whether you agree with it or not is on you, and whether Saunders agrees with it or not, or just fucking denies it because I'm a fucking hater, that's on him. We all have our thoughts. At this point, at the end of the day, I'm just making this because you guys wanted, and I said, you know, it would be funny. And honestly, I'm honestly having fun. It's fun doing this. I'm getting a lot out. It feels good. Feels fucking good. Woo! Okay, yeah. We all own this hobby, culturally. Dungeons and Dragons, as the OGGM would say, is all about rolling dice and doing something with it in a fantasy sense. Whether it be about goblins riding on ponies or us just casting fireball at whatever poor sucker we are doing, as long as there is some sense of high fantasy and the culture that is the Tolkien-esque, that's Dungeons and Dragons. Cannot deny that. Fandom has a lot more power than corporations, buddy. Corporations can just ruin an IP for the general audience. But fandoms have fucking passion for shit, buddy. Fandoms have passion, and if a fandom is passionate enough, they will keep a hobby alive. They will keep a game alive. They will keep an IP going as long as it is for their fandom area. And if they're keeping it alive, they might as well be the fucking owners of it, baby. Woo!
I'd like to see what they're doing with WotC return to that old freehand of D&D, what it was. I don't like the combat. What used to take 20 minutes and work well in old school now takes on average 2 hours to 2.5 hours to work in any WotC edition. I think the combat in the WotC editions is an absolute disgrace and one of the worst mechanical systems in all tabletop role-playing games. I swear. I think WotC, Wizards of the Coast, D&D, the combat is the worst combat, one of the worst systems in any tabletop role-playing game. Period. End of story. I like where we put the work on the talent of the person running the game, and that we just don't let any Tom, Dick, or Harry do it, which was what Raw ended up doing. Rules as written allowed a cockroach to take the place of somebody talented. Same thing with third-party adventures, modules. Why come up with your own ideas? Why develop them through a sandbox format when you can just run a module? And I remember...
Now, here comes the module hate. Now, modules can be iffy, sure. Rules as written can be iffy, sure. But one positive thing that underlines everything, where you're doing this with a bunch of total strangers that you do not know. Modules and Raw have one core thing in common. It puts structure, and I think I mentioned this before, definitely. Structure is needed for games to work. How do you win? Well, you do X, Y, and Z. How do you calculate this? Well, you do A, B, and C to get Z. Am I right or am I wrong? Now, sure, the appeal with TTRPGs is the creativity. I get that. I understand that feeling. I've been there. However, what sucks the most is when you can't get to that ending that's appealing to everybody. And if I'm going to be honest, that's where modules kind of come into play. Now, people are going to hate me for this also. And again, I get it. But this is my video and my opinions. You guys have wanted this, so I'm going to say it, whether you like it or not. Modules and Raw have their purpose. If it works out, it works out. And if it works, it works. I don't have the actual sales data right now, but I bet somebody in the comments will say that if they're running it and if the group is enjoying it, then why bother hating on the concept? I personally think if it works out, it works out. And if people like it, they like it. They don't, they don't. At the end of the day, we are all rolling dice and mopping up goblins off of our streets.
Remember when they redefined what a sandbox is into module gameplay. Sandbox is complete freedom, not some freedom. That's a loose railroad. Any form where there's an end or some form of control is a railroad, be it loose, harsh, tight, overwhelming. It's a railroad.
Okay. Railroading. We have to talk about this eventually, so let's talk about it now. Railroading. The concept is you are on a narrow path and you're forcing your players to go on that narrow path. That is a railroad. Now, there are variants of it where you can apply the quantum ogre theorem, where if you have like two paths, one leads to where your aim is for your players to go, and then the other you had little to no plans on, because obviously a world has like to be open somehow, but you want your players to go to point A but not B. Players take B. Okay. At that point, you just say, okay, B actually goes to A now. But you don't say it though. You don't say it though, which makes a vague feeling that, oh, the players are making a choice. Makes them feel good, even though you, the dungeon master, are shifting things a bit to be in your favor. Everybody wins as long as they don't know, unless they find out, then they might get pissy at you, and at that point you figure it out from there. Point is, you offered an option. They went away you didn't like, so you say to yourself, let's modify this a little bit. Okay, you actually made it to this place. And then you think that where I wanted you to go. Perfect. And if doing any slight variant of the railroad is railroading, then hate to say it, but TTRPGs can be that way. And if you don't like it that way, then okay, do your own. And tell me how it is. I won't deny your fun, but some people don't like it that way, so they obviously want a more fleshed out thing, and you know, if they like it, they like it.
The Temple of Elemental Evil is a railroad. Sandbox isn't some freedom, it's complete freedom. And you develop from that freedom, from what players do. And you can develop adventures tailored to what the players do. You can develop entire settings without buying one, all through sandbox play, and it's really easy. Traveler, the game, understood that. That's how Traveler existed without all these things. That's how you did it with OD&D. That's how you did it with early Dungeons and Dragons. But of course, that would threaten the modules and the selling of modules and making money off them. So why not redefine sandbox, which is a threat to your model of modules, into module gameplay? Trick the audience. Lie to them about what it is. Right? I'd like to return to the old school sandbox, freedom, talent. I don't think we're going there, so I think I'll be staying in the old school, run the games the way I've always have. But I do look at some of the work Luke is doing. You know, I'm not big on the lore. Some of the old school guys that are calling him a sellout are. So you're telling me you're not going to look at his Greyhawk work, which you could adapt to your old school rules? You're not going to look at the new Dragonlance work that you could adapt to anything old school that you're doing? Hey, if you tell me you just don't like it, you don't like it. But it's not like new people don't have a right to see a different version of something. Alright, I'm just not married to the lore, and I don't care about it. I care about a game. And I don't need their setting. I don't need their NPCs, and I don't need their modules. I'll use Sandbox to develop my own adventures, my own NPCs, and my own settings without any of it, and I will not marry the lore or care about it. And guess what? If Watsy wants to apologize to Luke and he accepts it, that's good enough for me. No selling out at all. There you go. Have a good one.
No, I won't have a good night. I do not accept that. Stephen Saunders, I do not accept that. So, where do we go from here, fellas? Where do we go from here? Well, Saunders is a big mixed bag, all things considered. Really big mixed bag. Some opinions we can agree on, but since I am a hater, I kind of can't. That's on you for not wanting me. So, is Luke Gygax really a sellout? We don't know. We don't know. Can we say that he, is or isn't? Honestly, that's not for us to decide. If you want to think he is, then okay. If you want to think he isn't, okay. But, Stevie, buddy, you're not so popular in this space. You should know this by now, right? You're not very popular in this, space. And if you have opinions that you're going to portray them as attacking others with a relatively more popular one, then you're going to be seen as a bad guy, buddy. And if I've said something in a way that makes you hate me, then I do apologize for that. I'm currently recording this in a very hot space. My AC is off and my fan is off because I don't want white noise polluting my mic or just overall polluting the area. Don't want that, so that's why I've been a bit sounding a little bit delirious, if you did not mind. So, what did you think about my thoughts of me reacting to Stephen Saunders? Should I do more? Let me know in the comments. And if you truly want me to do more reactions to what this piece of shit has to fucking say, here's my ultimatum. Get this video to 30 likes. If this video reaches that, then I will get started on a new reaction ASAP on one of the more recent videos at the time when Saunders posts around that time. And just in case Saunders ever put this video on private, deletes it, or even for God's sake, puts it up for his members, or just sets it to members only, because the members, of course, have to have everything like this. And like honestly, I feel bad for members only people. I really do feel bad because this is the kind of content that you shouldn't be receiving. You should be receiving things that are like behind the scenes things, or work in progress things, or something extra special for you, because honestly, people who are paying this guy deserve something that no one else should be getting. And if they're getting something like this, then I feel bad for you. So, if you don't want to pay for whatever he wants this like to be set as, I'm gonna have a re-upload of this, but as a more hidden one. The only way you will be able to access it is through the link in the description of this video. If you want to watch it for yourself while you're giving me views, who honestly deserves it better if I do say so myself. Anyways, with all that said and done, I gotta get to work on something else. Whether it be a video for a certain series, or taking care of something IRL, because obviously YouTube isn't all my life. It's why I upload so rarely. With all that said, this is GodOfKa signing off.